Does that help Tesla? I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who's a huge jerk, right? You know.
Imagine a morning in Silicon Valley. The news is as full of headlines as ever about Tesla, SpaceX's next development, and X's new AI. Suddenly, there's silence. No tweets, no announcements. Instead, a short phrase in a press release from Toyota. No noise, no publicity. A couple hours later, the media picks it up, and another 24 hours later, urgent meetings begin at Tesla headquarters. Elon Musk cancels meetings, throws away his phone, and, according to insiders, looks unsure for the first time in a long time. What happened?
Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged, there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
This isn't just a story about competition. This is a chess game where one of the players didn't even know he was involved. While Tesla was building the image of the great technological messiah, Toyota was building the infrastructure. While Musk was talking about Martian colonies, Japan was developing technologies that could take Tesla off the map not through war, but through evolution. And now, in January 2025, Akio Toyoda's calm voice interrupts the silence. The future of mobility is not limited to one planet, and certainly not by one company.
Well, you will hear people over in Europe say the new Model Y, the Juniper, could be a difference maker, but that's been in that market now for more than a month. And you would think that you'd see a greater snapback if it's going to be a difference maker. Look, we could be wrong. It could be a difference maker once you get the sales for April, May, and June. But when you have a country like Norway, I think the sales were down something like 11% there. I mean, that's a very savvy EV consumer in Norway. And that's long been a strength for Tesla. Very small market, not huge volume, but I think almost all of the vehicles they sell there are electric. And they embraced Tesla long before others. And, you know, the reports there are not encouraging.
This story is about a defeat that is not immediately visible. There won't be high-profile failures and bankruptcies. But what happened behind the scenes at CES was a moment of truth for Elon Musk. Toyota didn't just enter the electric car market. It declared that everything Musk had been building, from autopilot to space, was now in jeopardy. They're not arguing. They're replacing. The words, spoken in a closed room without cameras, went viral. One journalist recounted them verbatim: "We're not impressed with Musk. We're replacing him." And then added another: "Tell Elon, F you."
So there are a couple of things that might be going on here. So on the one hand, it could be that just at a very basic level, Musk has quickly observed a 40% decline in sales in Tesla in Europe.
It wasn't just a challenge. It was a shot, and it went right through the heart. Everything Musk believed in was in doubt. Everything Tesla did first may now be obsolete. Because Toyota isn't building hype, it's building an ecosystem. Global. Quietly. No show, but with billions of dollars of investment and patents that no one noticed until now.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video, and investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off, and 16 cars burned in this fire. And right now, investigators don't know what caused it.
In this video, we'll reveal how Toyota, the world's oldest and most trusted automaker, humiliated Elon Musk on his own turf. We'll show you what technologies they're developing and why they could change everything from city roads to orbiting satellites. You'll find out exactly what Elon said after the presentation that you didn't expect, and why this story isn't about cars. It's about power, it's about ambition, and about how one giant finally woke up.
Well, this feels more like a Tesla-only story when you look at just this fall in EV sales for them, that they're suffering across Europe, down 45% in January. The wider EV market in Europe up 37%, so rivals are catching up and performing.
It didn't start out as a sensation. No high-profile leaks, no flash in the headlines, no interviews with hints of a coup. Everything that seemed like just another routine detail of the corporate agenda Toyota's participation at CES in January 2025 turned out to be the most painful blow to Tesla in its history. For Elon Musk, who is used to being at the center of the tech scene, the week began with the usual business meetings, mostly focused on internal problems, declining profits, logistical disruptions, and waning interest in Cybertruck. But behind the scenes, where almost no one was watching, one company, the same one Musk had spent years ridiculing, was preparing a moment that would take his breath away.
After Trump imposed those sweeping 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, the European Union retaliating with tariffs on up to $28 billion of U.S. goods. Trump making it clear this isn't over, vowing to respond in kind with sweeping retaliatory tariffs early next month.
They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Canada also striking back with new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, mostly steel and aluminum, but also computers and sporting goods.
It happened on the morning of Jan. 8. Toyota representatives, low-key as always, with no announcements or teasers, entered the CES pavilion in Las Vegas. The press, busy with new products from Samsung, Sony and startups from California, almost ignored them. Until a strange note appeared in Bloomberg's morning feed. Toyota invites a limited number of journalists to a private briefing after Akio Toyoda's speech. The headline was unremarkable, but it prompted a slight internal response among industry veterans. Toyota doesn't make unnecessary moves. If they invite someone into a closed room, it means there's going to be something that's off the agenda.
Worse than expected, 336 and 68 vehicles, 336,068 vehicles delivered in the first quarter for Tesla. For a point of reference, the street was expecting, the street account was expecting, based on analyst expectations.
On the CES stage, things look modest. Akio Toyoda came out in a grey suit, not distracted by visual gimmicks or advertising fanfare. He began with a personal story about his grandfather Kiichiro, who dreamed not only of cars but how technology could change the way people live, move, and build cities. The speech felt more like a philosophical talk than a presentation, and everything was going smoothly until he said a simple, almost mundane phrase: "We believe that mobility should not be limited to roads and should not be dependent on one ideology." At this point, even those who were watching the broadcast in the background became more attentive, because in the context of the last few years, this one ideology was clear to everyone. He was talking about Musk. That's when what TechCrunch would later call the most elegant and disruptive PR attack of the decade began. Toyota announced its $44 million infusion into Japanese aerospace Project Interstellar Technologies, a company that has been secretly developing modular rockets with radically new architectures since 2022. Not so much for flights to Mars, but to create satellite logistics and autonomous transportation systems between cities, factories, and even islands. All of this wasn't just rockets. It was an alternative to SpaceX, but without the cult of personality, without the show, without the eccentricity. Just math, engineering, and strategy. At this point, the audience was no longer clapping, they were watching without stopping, because it became clear this is not a defensive move. This is an attack. Direct, silent, without announcements, and without advertising.
371, most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362,615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
After the speech, a meeting with journalists was organized, and it was there behind closed doors that the phrase that would be published the next day in almost every media outlet, from Wired to Nikki Key, was uttered. When a reporter asked how Toyota viewed the accomplishments of Musk and his companies, Toyota CEO Koji Sato said, "We're not impressed. We are not following him. We will replace him." And then, according to two sources at once, added, "Tell Elon we said F you." It wasn't an emotional outburst. It was a cold, measured insult, like a precise stab with a scalpel. The phrase, leaked by a Financial Times journalist, went viral within hours. Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, all filled with memes, reactions, analysis. But outside the public space, on the sidelines of Tesla, the real panic began. According to one employee, Musk didn't hide his rage. He cancelled a scheduled call with investors, cut short a meeting with engineers on autopilot, and stormed out of the conference room in a rage. He was thrashing from room to room, silent, as if he had lost ground under his feet. One of the meeting participants would later anonymously recount.
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. First, I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
But why did it all work out so disastrously? Because Toyota didn't just challenge Tesla. It challenged Musk's entire philosophy, the belief that everything can be changed through charisma, speed, and loud statements. Toyota didn't just show an alternative path. It did it without saying anything about Tesla. It was a humbling silence. They acted without regard for the public. And that's what they did to win her over.
Teslas are being torched across the country. Dealerships shot up and set on fire. Spray paint to vandalize and make a statement. People in Southern California are getting notes on their Teslas, calling them complicit Nazis for owning electric cars.
Meanwhile, analysts started pulling up the archives. It turned out that between 2020 and 2024, Toyota had filed more than 600 patents in the areas of autonomous driving, AI navigation, and energy grids related to EV infrastructure. Moreover, their reports began to find references to the construction of closed test sites in northern Japan, where not only roads but also air routes between cities were modeled. These routes were intended for a new type of drone, cargo drones, modular, based on the same technology as interstellar missiles. No one had noticed this before. That's because no one expected Toyota to strike, especially not Elon Musk. Up until that point, Tesla had perceived Toyota as a lagging veteran. Their hybrids were seen as outdated, their approach as cautious, and their strategy is sluggish. Musk has publicly labeled the Japanese auto companies as brakes on progress on several occasions. And now, in January 2025, progress has hit him. Not from a San Francisco startup, not from China, but from a company he has spent years deriding as a relic of the past. That was the tragicomedy of the moment. While Tesla was vying for attention and trying to hold its ground with aggressive price promotions, Toyota was quietly and methodically rebuilding not only its factories, but the very map of future mobility.
And police in Italy are investigating possible arson after a fire destroyed more than a dozen Tesla vehicles. Elon Musk is calling the incident at a Rome dealership terrorism. This comes as Tesla has been the target of recent protests around the world.
That was the first act of humiliation. What came next was more. Because if Toyota really does swing into everything at once, EVs, autonomy, satellites, infrastructure, then it's no longer just a competitor. It's a new industry architecture. And if Musk doesn't notice it in time, he'll find himself sideways, not ahead. Toyota has never built an empire on hype. Unlike Tesla, where Elon Musk's every tweet was a reason for stocks and headlines to fluctuate, the Japanese company has been working in the shadows for years, building a network of technologies, processes, and strategies that have now begun to take shape. It is this slowness, bordering on defiant silence, that has become the real threat. Because while Elon Musk was battling high-profile challenges in the information field, from regulators to his own fans frustrated by launch disruptions, Toyota was literally designing the future mobility ecosystem. Not a product, not a model, but the logical and technical infrastructure upon which the cities, roads, satellites, and transportation systems of the next decades will be based.
Over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
It didn't all start in 2025 or even 2022. Long before the surge of interest in electric cars, Toyota had an internal team called Project Tesseract, a closed R&D group formed in 2017 at the initiative of Akio Toyoda himself. Its goal was not to create an electric car that could compete with the Model 3 or Cybertruck, but to answer one single question: what comes after? After batteries, after charging stations, after Tesla? A report on this team has never been published, but in 2023, the Financial Times, as part of an investigation into Toyota's investment in urban planning, uncovered a string of contracts with anonymous startups in Germany, Canada, and South Korea developing adaptive AI systems for real-time traffic management in 2023. No one at the time linked these deals to each other. Nevertheless, over the course of 4 years, Toyota invested more than $2.4 billion in developments not directly related to cars. These included algorithms for neuro-like traffic distribution, inter-vehicle communication systems, and platforms for automatically updating city navigation to account for seasonal, meteorological, and demographic changes. In 2021, they bought 36% of Aito Weave, a Japanese telecommunications company with access to frequencies to 6 to 7 GHz band, which is ideal for communication between autonomous cars and smart roads. The deal went largely unnoticed, but it was the cornerstone in building a system that Toyota internally calls MetaRoads, an invisible network that connects ground and air transportation into a single stream of guided mobility.
We begin with the president's trade war escalating tonight. This evening, the retaliation against the United States, Canada, and the European Union responding quickly, just hours after President Trump's 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States.
While Tesla was putting on online shows and building gigafactories, Toyota was building a core. And at that core were patents. Hundreds of documents filed in patent offices in Japan, the US, Germany, and Switzerland. Unlike the battery or carbon fiber body patents we're used to, these applications covered a different area: neuromodulated algorithms for predictive logistics, microsensor arrays for embedded traffic systems, adaptive models for loading urban infrastructure based on population behavioral factors. This was not a response to Tesla, but a workaround creating new rules. Some of these patents were so specialized that even experts in AI and transportation systems did not immediately understand their significance. For example, patent J7891223 described a system capable of adjusting traffic density in a particular area of a city based on analyzing customer activity at nearby stores and the number of orders from delivery services. Patent US 11800531 billion pointed to a method for transmitting microsignals between cars under conditions of high architectural congestion, that is, in dense urban areas where GPS loses accuracy. It was all part of a vision in which the automobile became just an element of a larger system.
Running around on stage with a Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half. And he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do. What a creep, what a jerk. Like who derives joy?
That's when the second phase of preparation began, assembling the hardware base. From 2020 to 2024, Toyota made 7 major acquisitions of companies specializing in lithium metal anodes, next-generation catalysts, and low-noise electric motors. But even more important were their actions in materials science. At one of Toyota's centers in Nagoya, work began on a new composite Kodam-DT ceramic, which combines the properties of ceramic and graphene. According to leaks from Nikkei Asia, These materials are already being used in prototypes of autonomous modules capable of operating at extreme temperatures and in space vacuum conditions. This is directly related to the development of their new direction of integrating mobility and orbital logistics.
KTLA Samantha Cortese joins us live with more on the wave of vandalism in protest of Elon Musk and his role in Washington. Sam?
Hi, Sharon, Micah. The ATF and FBI are collaborating with federal, state, and local law enforcement to investigate acts of domestic terrorism surrounding Teslas.
Behind the scenes near Fujisawa, Toyota built a closed experimental area, the existence of which was not revealed until late 2024. It wasn't just a highway. It was a mock-up of a city of the future, with unmanned car-share cars traveling along pre-built routes, synchronized with elevator shafts, logistics centers, and overhead drones. Information about the facility was confirmed by leaked satellite imagery, when researchers from DARPA accidentally captured sections of an active construction site with an unknown purpose. Inside Toyota, the project was called Kodaki Thin Blade and symbolized a quiet but precise attack.
Outperforming as well in some cases, doing better than Tesla. And you just have to think, how much more is this a sustained issue for Tesla going forward, given the fact that you have Elon Musk, who's been very forthright in his opinions, particularly weighing in on politics, particularly in Europe. We've just had the European elections, which Musk has been very focused on. But across the piece, when you look at the performance for Tesla in Europe, it's not just in small countries. There are a lot of countries where Tesla has been performing badly, including in Germany, in the UK where it has been lagging, and Spain as well.
When Musk began to notice these signals in early 2025, he was already finding it difficult to react without panicking. He accelerated the development of a new version of FEST, full self-driving, ordered an increase in the budget for Tesla Energy, and suddenly brought humanoid robots back into focus. But these were no longer strategic actions, but impulsive moves to stay in the news. Meanwhile, Toyota wasn't just building systems, it was tying them together. In late 2024, the company entered into a closed-door agreement with the Japanese government to create a national program called CitySync, a pilot project to connect all aspects of mobility, energy, and security into a single AI-driven urban management platform. This project is essentially the equivalent of a smart state run by machine logic.
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government. He's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
It became clearer by the day, this wasn't just an incident. This was an axis shift. Toyota was no longer trying to compete with Tesla. It was taking a step sideways and upward, to where Tesla had yet to build walls. All the critics who had assured for years that Toyota was lagging behind weren't just wrong. They didn't understand the scale. Because while the world was laughing at hybrids, Toyota was designing a parallel world, a world where transportation obeys an algorithm, where cities are data centers, where orbit is a road, not a dream. For Elon Musk, everything has changed. He didn't lose. But for the first time in a decade, he realized he could lose. And not because someone will make his car better or faster. It was because someone would build a system where his car would no longer be needed. And if that moment was indeed a bifurcation point, it wasn't a clash of two companies. It was a clash of two philosophies. A loud revolution versus a quiet replacement. And perhaps the scariest threat for Elon is the realization that now he's not even being directly attacked. He's just being eliminated,